The year is 2052, and the Earth is no longer the green and blue paradise that it once was. There is still plenty of green on the planet, but it isn't the kind that represents that of a paradise, but instead, a hell that chokes out what little of the planet's natural environment remains, leaving behind nothing but a brown and dry desert laced with more of this green crystal infestation, an infestation known as Tiberium. How did the Earth, harboring all kinds of life, and home to the most advanced species in the solar system, go from being an oasis of abundant life to a dry husk that, each year, is becoming increasingly inhabitable to what is left of the indigenous life on it? It all starts back in 1995 along the Tiber River in Italy. Here, a small meteor fell to Earth, containing a mysterious alien mineral. This alien mineral began to quickly spread around the world, and it would come to be known as Tiberium, named after its place of discovery, the Tiber River. The most common form of Tiberium are the green-colored crystals, known as Tiberium riparius, with the rare blue-colored crystals being called Tiberium vinifera. A small patch of Tiberium can spread quickly to cover acres of land. This is believed to be done by way of underground roots or veins. The mineral will then grow towards the surface from these roots and break through the ground in a crystalline form. Tiberium absorbs nutrients and minerals from the soil and concentrates it all in its crystalline form. The crystal is highly adaptable, transforming its surrounding natural environment into its more suitable and unique alien attributes. More disturbingly, Tiberium can alter large plant life such as trees into what scientists refer to as blossom trees. These mutated trees have their bark transformed into a softer, more organic, fleshy material. After 12 days, large bulbs can be seen on them. These bulbs expand and contract, and release small Tiberium crystals and gases into the air. This process is what allows Tiberium to spread far and wide, carried by wind through the Earth's atmosphere, where it eventually settles on the ground and begins to grow more Tiberium fields. Although by the time of the year 2042, most of these blossom trees were dead, either by the natural evolution of Tiberium or from efforts by the Global Defense Initiative and their attempts to stop the spread of Tiberium. While this new mutated environment was suitable for the alien mineral, it is deadly to all carbon-based life. This is due to the gases and microparticles that naturally emanate from Tiberium. Unless wearing protective gear, humans are advised to stay clear of Tiberium fields.
Dr. Mobius, tell our viewers just what Tiberium really is.
Molecularly, it's a non-carbon-based element that appears to have strong ferrous qualities with non-resonating reversible energy that has a tendency to disrupt carbon-based molecular structures with inconsequent and unequal positrons orbiting on the first, second, and ninth quark rings.
Whoa, is that good or bad?
Ooh, let me put it this way, Eddie. The possibilities of Tiberium are limitless.
Though Tiberium was a deadly alien substance, it was also a great resource as well. The best that the Earth had ever seen, in fact. The crystals could easily be harvested for industrial means, at the minimum of mining expense. The crystals can then be processed at a special Tiberium refinery and sold off to various companies and governments. Processed Tiberium can be used for a variety of applications and is thus highly valuable. The first group to take advantage of Tiberium's potential was the Brotherhood of Nod, a secret organization that has been around on Earth for decades, possibly even centuries, slowly and covertly forming into a large superpower, one whose characteristics encompass that of a global religion, decentralized nation-state, and multinational corporation. Led by its charismatic leader, Kane, the Brotherhood would reveal itself publicly in 1995. Nod sees Tiberium as the key to humanity's future and its salvation. As previously mentioned, the next group to arise shortly after the arrival of Tiberium in 1995 was the Global Defense Initiative, or GDI for short. This organization was formed by the G7 countries under the Charter of the United Nations Global Defense Act. The purpose of GDI as a military force was to counter Nod's activities to gain power and control over Third World nations, as well as stop what the UN considered to be acts of terrorism by Nod forces throughout the globe. Both sides would further develop methods on harvesting Tiberium and using it to fund their organizations. This funding allowed them to maintain large numbers of military forces and equipment, and develop even more advanced weapons to fight each other with. These conflicts between GDI and Nod led to major world wars, which would later become known as the Tiberium Wars. The first war occurred between 1995 and 2001, followed by the second war 29 years later in the year 2030, after which an event known as the Firestorm Crisis occurred in 2031. This crisis saw Nod and GDI temporarily halting hostilities against each other in order to destroy a renegade AI named Cabal, which threatened all of humanity with its cyborg army. The wars between GDI and Nod and the Firestorm Crisis were devastating both on the Earth's environment as well as the human population. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, had died during the wars, contributing to the further collapse of society in many countries. This was in addition to the continued spread of Tiberium around the world, which at this point could be found on every continent, with the exception of Antarctica, as well as other extremely cold environments, such as Alaska and Northern Europe. By the year 2042, Earth had been split into 3 zones based off Tiberium infestation and concentration. The first kinds of zones were the blue zones. To quote from the GDI Archives Intelligence Database, only 20% of the Earth's surface is in a relatively pristine condition. Blue zones suffer from minimal Tiberium infestation and have been relatively untouched by war. The populations of the blue zones live in relative comfort, going about their lives in high-tech, futuristic cities that sit in forested valleys or nestle in pastoral farmland. Outside the safety of the blue zones are the yellow zones, which make up roughly 50% of the surface of the Earth, and is also where the majority of the Earth's human population inhabit. Tiberium fields are a common sight throughout these zones, growing in the middle of towns, cities, and farmlands. Tiberium-influenced climate change causes a continuous cycle of droughts, floods, and devastating storms to occur within these zones, from Category 6 hurricanes to 500-mile-per-hour windstorms, as well as warlords and criminal organizations running many cities in the most afflicted of yellow zones. The Brotherhood of Nod actively recruit and have much support from the people living here. Because of this, GDI tries to occupy these zones in order to counter Nod recruiting efforts. For people living in here, constant survival is a way of life. If one is lucky enough to not be killed by the harsh environment of the Tiberium-altered climate, then they will still have to worry about getting caught up in a criminal gang war, or become collateral damage from the fighting between GDI and Nod. A subsistence living is just the start. Tiberium contamination is a fact of life, and thousands die every year from inhaling microscopic crystals that are carried in smog, clouds of dust, and other airborne particulates. Tiberium may even fall out of the sky suspended in raindrops if the clouds overhead have passed through a red zone during or after an ion storm. Because of the drought conditions in many yellow zones, rain showers are often greeted by the local populations with an odd mix of fear, dread, and joy. Excerpt from the GDI Archives, Life in a Yellow Zone. The other 30% of the Earth's surface is designated as red zones, which are completely uninhabitable to carbon-based life forms. To quote again from the Archives, from an excerpt from the International Orthographics Guide to Our World Today, if you were to equip yourself with a hardened environment suit and stand in the middle of a red zone, you would see a landscape straight out of hell. The ground is a blasted and barren plateau of rock laced with veins of Tiberium that shine through with a malevolent green radiance. On the horizon are massive formations of pure Tiberium that have welled up through the surrounding Earth. These frozen crystalline glaciers cast a sickly emerald glow on the surrounding terrain. Tilt your head, and you'll contemplate a cloudy, tortured sky, alive with twisting patterns of shimmering light and flickers of lightning. If you wait long enough, you'll see an ion storm begin to form, the lightning overhead intensifying until the entire environment is lit with rapid, strobing flashes. Eventually, the vast and terrible energy overhead will begin arcing to the ground around you in a terrifying display of destructive force. These fireworks are accompanied by a howling toxic whirlwind that scours the deserted ground and drives shards of Tiberium before it at insane speeds. Red zones are like the surface of an alien world. Scientists have speculated that Tiberium is actually a terraforming agent for an alien civilization, slowly transforming our world into an environment suitable for beings that have evolved on a different planet. No definitive conclusions have been reached. At least, no definitive conclusions were at the time of that entry. But in 2047, during the Third Tiberium War between GDI and Nod, those scientists would finally have an answer to their speculations. Before the start of the Third Tiberium War, GDI had refocused its efforts from defense to ecological preservation of the world's blue zones. Thanks to sonic technology that GDI had developed over several years of peace after the Second War, they were able to accomplish their goal of preserving these zones, and were even able to change a part of Germany from its yellow zone status to a blue zone, which they called New Eden. GDI would have to quickly reshift their focus to defense, however, after the destruction of their space station, the USS Philadelphia, by the hands of the Brotherhood, who had emerged once again led by their leader Kane. The war reached its climax when GDI, under the command of Director Raymond Boyle, ordered the destruction of Kane's Temple Prime with a strike from the Orbital Ion Cannon, the most powerful weapon in the GDI arsenal. The explosion from the blast detonated liquid Tiberium at the temple, which showered most of Eastern Europe in Tiberium fallout, killing millions of GDI and Nod soldiers, as well as civilians. Most importantly, however, the explosion caught the attention of an alien fleet waiting outside the solar system. This alien race was known as the Skrin. They took the large explosion as a sign to begin harvesting operations of Tiberium on Earth. However, this was just a mining fleet, and not a full-scale invasion force. As such, the Skrin were not expecting to meet such stiff resistance from both GDI and Nod forces on the planet. The Skrin focused on assaulting the large urban population centers of the Blue Zones in order to keep GDI forces occupied from their true purpose, which was the construction of gigantic structures known as thresholds. 19 of these were constructed in red zones across the globe. These thresholds would act as gateways, presumably to one of the Skrin's planets, that would allow a full invasion force to come through. Ultimately, the Skrin's efforts would fail, with 18 of the threshold towers being destroyed, and only one left standing in Italy under the control of the Brotherhood, and completely impervious to damage. At the end of the Third Tiberium War, in the year 2049, GDI emerged victorious. The surviving Skrin were able to make a retreat through one of the threshold towers before it was destroyed, and the Brotherhood of Nod was but a shadow of its former self, with all its senior-ranking members dead, with the exception of Kane himself. The only major action taken by the charismatic leader of the Brotherhood was in the year 2052. This operation involved retrieving an ancient but powerful artifact known as the Tacitus from the GDI Rocky Mountains complex. By merging the now unstable Tacitus with a powerful AI known as Legion, Kane was able to translate a Skrin message saying that a full invasion of Earth was imminent. Now, near the end of the year 2052, GDI focuses on rebuilding the Blue Zones, or at least what's left of them. The Yellow Zones, which were already ravaged by war and hostile Tiberium climates, are in an even worse state than ever before. All GDI's previous efforts of halting the spread of Tiberium now seem to have been in vain, such as with New Eden, the Yellow Zone that became a Blue Zone, once again becoming completely taken over by Tiberium. In addition, GDI must also rebuild their military, in preparation for a possible second Skrin invasion. Though scientists believe that Threshold Tower 19 will remain dormant indefinitely, GDI remains wary of this prediction, and continues monitoring of the tower at all times. Whether GDI will be prepared for such an invasion is yet to be seen, or if the continued spread of Tiberium will eventually consume the Earth, and wipe out the last remaining vestiges of life before then. Or perhaps through the power of the Tacitus, Kane is able to achieve ascension for he and his devout followers. Only time will tell how the future of humanity and its place on this Tiberium Earth will unfold.